Hello all, welcome to Clark Technologies, and we are very happy to announce that we are going to provide a free course for MuleSoft for all the freshers and beginners and who want to learn MuleSoft from scratch. This is entirely free course which we are going to release on day by day basis. So it will be a 30 days course. So it is very helpful for you to learn MuleSoft from scratch. And we have explained this course with the real-time project. We have built a real-time project also. In order to explain that, we have created a couple of files and project code as well. So if you want to get those files and projects, please email us with this subject line, request to share level 1 course files. Also, we have an important announcement that we are planning to release a MuleSoft advanced level 2 course very soon. So in this course we will be discussing most of the topics of MuleSoft, which will help you very well in order to complete level 2 certification as well as to work on complex real-time projects as well. So I hope you will be enjoying that course as well. So if you want to know more details about advanced level course, please contact us via mobile or email. We will be sharing those details. So without further delay, let's get started. Hello all. Yeah, so far I assume that you have already watched this SAP, I mean System API and the Process API, and you practiced it well. Now let's implement the Experience API. If you remember, we have already designed the Experience API RAML. So let's go to that. Let's import it into the studio and let's start the implementation for that. Let me just log in into the, yeah, here I'm going to the API manager because we have already designed it and we created a REST API in API manager as well. So, but still it is unregistered the API because we need to apply the auto discovery in our implementation. Right, so I just opened up this studio. Let me just let me just create new project for this Experience API. So new project, go to design, download from RAML from Design Center, expand it and select that Experience API this time. It will take some time, then let's give the project name, then finish it off. It will take some time maybe. In the meanwhile, let's create the repository as we did for the Process API, but for Experience API we don't have it, right? So let's go to Azure DevOps. Let's create new repository. You can just name in the same way which you have implemented the RAML. IPS library MGMT API. And let's create branches also. Dev QA or maybe stage. Let's delete that, maybe that's not an issue. So stage and one feature branch for our implementation. Feature IMPL branch based on main branch, and we create master branch also, right? So let's create master branch on top of main branch. Let's delete that main branch and QA branch, and let's make this master branch as the default one. Okay, so let me just create this QE branch, which is created by mistake, and then come to this master branch, make it as a default branch, and delete this main branch. I'm going little fast because this we have already seen 2 times. Right, so just 1 second. Ignore that screen, I have installed another program. Okay, so now we have created the repository and branches. Okay, it is imported, and now let's give the project name. So IBS with the same name, it will be better. IBS library MGMT EAPI. IBS library MGMT EAPI. Right, so let's click on finish. It will generate API kit router flows. So I think it got, yeah. Yeah, let me just change this name to API.xml. And let's create the implementation.xml configuration file as well. Then let's commit this default code, initial commit. IBS library EAPI IMPL.xml. Alright, so if you observe these 3 APIs carefully, the process will be same. If you are going to build experience API, process API, or system API, or any other API, the process will be same, the step-by-step process which we are following. In system API, we have discussed everything in detail. So the same process we are following for any API. So once you have hands-on of the system API end to end with all the best practices and with all the concepts which we have learned, then it will be easy for you to to implement any other API in the same process. But the connectors will change. It depends on your project requirement. Alright, so what we can do, let me just go to System Explorer. So here the files are there, right? But before that, let me just no, not here. Projects, where I have saved the projects. I just wanted to clone that. Okay, what I'm trying is like yeah, here I'm just going to clone that. Excuse me. Let me go to the experience API. Yeah, this is the one. Let me just clone it. Get the clone URL and go to git bash, git clone, paste that URL. So this is the another folder where we are cloning it actually. So once it is cloned, then maybe we can just copy paste all the default generated flows, just we are doing for all the other APIs. Right, so now let me go to the particular folder CV library MGMT EVAPI, right? So git check out what is the feature branch which we have created. You can go to that branch and copy that branch name here. Now come here, paste it, enter. So now it is in feature branch. Just do git pull origin
It will pull all the updated code if it has any, but as of now we don't have any updated code, so that is why it is showing already up to date. Right, so now what we need to do, just like we did for other APIs, this is the Azure projects. It means I cloned this one, so cloned repository folder, but the actual workspace folder is available here in the Anypoint Studio, Studio Workspace, and my AI API. This how you can do, I mean how you know, like right click on your project, show in System Explorer, there it will navigate you through the particular folder. So now let's select everything, copy it and paste it in the other folder. This process we have already seen in System API, so I am just moving a little fast. Okay, so now you need to add all these folders, so git add space dot, right, so git status, it will show you all the files. Yes, now git commit commit -m in double quotations, it is initial code because we have not done any implementation yet, it is API kit router flows. Then you need to push this to remote repository, git push origin. Right, these are all the common steps for any API or any code you want to manage into the coding repository. Right, now what we can do, you can just remove this project from this workspace and import the folder from there where you have cloned it. So now go to file, import, go to file system, the project root, this is in another folder. Okay, no problem, I have cloned it in where that MuleSoft Course. Okay, let me just go to that particular folder. Here I have cloned it, so you need to select this folder and finish. Now it will show you the Experience API, and it is again, you will find this cylinder symbol, so it is synced with your Git repository. Right, very good. So till now everything is same. So now what you need to do in this implementation, you need to write all the actual implementation code for the resources which you want to add. But let's focus on this get libraries only as of now, because we have implemented this get libraries, list libraries in process API also and in system APIs also. So if you implement these git libraries here in your Experience API, if you invoke the process API, then inside that process API already we have invoked the system API. So one complete API led connectivity approach will be completed for one resource, like get libraries. Remaining three features or remaining three functionalities you can try for process API and Experience API. For both system API we have already done with all the four resources, right? So the thing is, like, you need to call the system API in the process API, you need to call the process API into the Experience API. So those steps you need to do by your own by following the process which we have already discussed, right? So let me focus on this get libraries. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, now let's focus on this get libraries, and let's call the process API in this Experience API. To do that, what we need to do, we'll just remove this not this one, this is the URI parameter one. So this one, you can just remove this data view and add one logger. So always it is suggestible to add start logger and end logger. Start logger of eAPI. You can enable the function, just remove all the hashes, just enable the function and add your statement in double quotation. This is the best way to write any log messages, right? So it is a start logger. Now I need to invoke that flow where I have implemented, but as of now I didn't implement yet, right? So what we can do, we need to call the process API into this Experience API, right? So even now our process API is itself as a REST API. So to call or to consume any REST API, what is the connector we are going to use? It is HTTP request connector. So I'm just drag and drop the request connector. Alright, so here you need to configure the process API configuration right now. Earlier in process API, while invoking the system API, what we have configured for this request connector, we have configured these URL, path, method and everything which are related to system API. But now we are invoking process API. So you need to configure this particular connector with process API details. So that is why I just opened the Postman. Yesterday, I mean, in the previous video, we have already tested the process API URL directly, right? So that URL you need to configure now. But remember, in this process API, we have not yet implemented, we have not yet added any policies or any headers or anything. It is just a plain process API. So in this case, you can just, it is enough to configure URL and path or method. These three are enough. But while configuring system API, we have already discussed, like we need to pass the headers also here. But now for the process API, there is no headers because we have not implemented any policies as of now. So in that case, you can ignore these tabs. You can just configure the URL. Just click on this plus icon to create global configuration, and the protocol is HTTP. Host you can give from the Postman. This is the host which you have tested until the cloudhub.io, right? So port we have given 80, so it is an internal Cloud Hub port. Let's click OK, and you need to provide path as well. Okay, so what is the path? /API/libraries. This is the path. So that's simple to configure any REST API global connector. The thing you need to remember is, if it is a post method, you need to configure body also here. If it has any headers like client ID, client secret, correlation ID, just like we did for system API, you need to add them here. If the particular resource is having any query parameters, just like our another resources or our another functionality, like the books, get books details based on the rating and the library code. Those two are the query parameters, rating and library code. So those two query parameters you need to mention here. You need to add key value pairs of those values here. Then in another resource we have URI parameter also, where to get the library details based on the library ID. So here, let me show you that quickly. So I am just giving you some idea. You can implement these three resources. Try once. Maybe later we can cover this. If you didn't complete this, after 2-3 videos of another topic, maybe I will come back here and I'll let you know how you can do this. But before that, you can just try all this.
Yeah, so let's continue it from here. Yeah. So we have configured this process API endpoint URL details here, and this puppy also doesn't have any client ID enforcements and all. We don't need to add any headers, query params or URI params. If it is there, then please pay attention and add those details also in the required tab. Right, so PAPI call. Before that, you need to add one logger, like before logger, any third party call like this. If any REST API or any other third party connector you are calling, it is better to add 2 adders before call, after call. I mean, add 2 loggers before and after. This is the best practice, not the best practice. Okay. Display name I didn't change. Before calling process API. Right, so yeah, now this flow you need to invoke here, but we need to capture the response also. Let's wait. So that particular flow we need to invoke here. by using flow reference where it is like get libraries, because this get libraries functionality only we have implemented in process API. So let's do that only. Let's test this end to end from experience to process, process to system. Then let's see how it goes. Okay, so flow reference, here you need to call that flow of process API. Maybe it is having default name. Let's change that. Get libraries eAPI flow, just to your understanding. Okay, so maybe let's add the data view also. So this time we have already transformed the message which is required format in the process API. So now what you need to do, you need to just send that same response which you have got from the process API. So that is why we will going to send only JSON application slash JSON format of entire payload. Whenever you say payload, we have already seen this. Whenever you say payload here and format JSON, what it will do, it will send the response coming from the previous connector as it is to the entire response. It will save into the result, and it will send this as a response to the API, whichever it called. In our case it is experience API. Once you hit the experience API, now what it will do, it will call the process API, and it will capture the response gathered by the process API, and it will send the same response to you. There is no further transformations in this experience API. I just renamed the flow. Okay, all right, and it's better to add start and end logger and before and after logger. Remember these points as part of logging. Right, so maybe let's put a debug point here. Let's debug this application once. But remember, in this experience API also, what you have to do, the other steps, you need to externalize the properties. Means you need to create different properties files, and you need to send the values from there. Right? You have to follow all the steps. And along with this, we forgot one thing. We need to add auto discovery. Right? So I have already created this RAML, and we have created a API in the API manager also. So library management eAPI main. What is the ID of API? And whenever you add this, you need to add those properties also. The 4 properties in runtime manager. You should add those properties as well. Okay. So this eAPI, this instance is this one. So let me copy this. Go to AnyPoint Studio, add it here. But do remember, don't add any hard-coded values here. In system API, we have followed every steps to externalize these properties and read it from the properties file and encryption, everything. So please follow everything for process API and experience API also. This is kind of assignment to you, as I said earlier. Okay. Otherwise, you will not practice all these things. So that's why. Yeah. Okay. So auto discovery also we have added. Mm, So whenever we have added auto discovery, we cannot test it locally. Better we can deploy it to Cloud Hub, and then we will test it. Before that, we have some changes. So let's commit the code. Let me just git bash here. Git add dot to add all the files. XP API implementation. Git push origin. Alright, so now we have pushed all the changes to our remote repository. Let's export this and let's deploy this into Cloud Hub. As of now, we haven't deployed this Experience API yet, right? This is the first time we are going to deploy. Let me just cross check once. Yeah, we have just done the implementation, right? So, okay, fine. And the runtime manager. Dev environment. Yeah, we haven't deployed it yet. So what we can do, let me just deploy this application to Cloud Hub. To be frank, we haven't applied any policies. So let's deploy it first with all the properties. Then maybe we can apply a couple of policies and we can see the behavior. Okay. So Anypoint platform, deploy to Cloud Hub. As I said, I have to reset my system. So I have, I mean, set this system again. So everything has gone. Let me just log in, add my account. Let me just copy it from here. It will open up the deployment screen. Let me just check the preferences because I reset everything, right? So if this browser is not visible for you, sometimes what will happen, you need to first select this native instead of built-in. Okay, go to Windows preferences and check for the browser. By default it will be built-in, just to make it native. Okay, and apply and close. Let me try again. Otherwise maybe we can export this as a jar file. Sorry, I clicked on exchange. Let me just yeah, deploy to Cloud Hub. Let me check again something if I missed. Web browser. It's default system browser. Maybe I can just select it as Chrome. So these are all some kind of workarounds if you see any issues in the browser while deploying or while adding this Anypoint Studio account. Let me try this last time. Otherwise, we can export it. Okay. To avoid all this deployment manual stuff, we have this CI/CD. We have to look into it. We have to set up it and we have to deploy that, right? Okay. Okay. Why we are wasting time? Like, let's export this. New archive. It would be. Let me put it in downloads. Finish. Let's do this manually. Actually, you have another way of deploying this application manually by using MuleMaven plugin. That is also we need to see in case of like while we are working with this CI/CD process. That you can do manually also, but it's better to discuss along with the CI/CD process. That will be some impact on you. Um, yeah. So I exported it. Let me just deploy it. IBS library mgmte it's cloud hub data, and let me upload the file, this jar file. Also remember, this is the new runtime version that actually released 4.5. Deploy application, and once it get deployed, again we need to deploy it by adding those auto discovery properties. It will take some time. Let me just pause the video and resume once it is deployed. So it is getting deployed, but anyways it won't work. Alright, any API will not get active. So see, it is blocked, unavailable. If you don't pass those four properties, it will show you like this ID is blocked and unavailable. We have to pass those four properties, then it will make like it will become that API is unblocked and available. So maybe we can just copy those properties from another API which we have, I mean another process API or something from the runtime manager. Let me show you. I'll just keep and make a note of it also so that I can share you via comments. So in the copy also we have given, right? So let's go to the settings, in the properties, click on text view so that you can copy everything. Okay, then come to here, this EAPI properties, click on text view, paste these values, then go to table view. It will be adjustable, right? So I just keep it in notepad, but now let me just redeploy this application. Like once you click on apply changes, it will automatically get redeployed. Okay, so where it is, yeah, EAPI. So in the logs you can see another deployment is also started at 4:30. So then it will take some time to get it deployed. Right, so meanwhile let's discuss another policy. So in the API manager we have already seen client ID enforcement policy. So but we have another policies also. Usually like in general all the APIs or most of the APIs will use this client ID enforcement policy and basic authentication, rate limiting. These three are common policies for almost all the APIs. But few policies will be unique for few APIs like OAuth2 policies and all. Let me just show you what are the multiple policies available before it gets deployed. So once it gets deployed, let's test without policy and let's apply this basic authentication and rate limiting and let's see the difference. So without policy, if you test it once, then it will be easy for you to understand the policy. So that is why I'll be waiting for the deployment. But meanwhile, I'll just show you the different policies. And here, if you can see, once you go to the policies, you have automated policies, API level policies. Through two sections are there. So whenever you have added any automated policy, this is not enabled for us, like for a free account or for trial account, it is not enabled. For licensed account, it will get enabled. See, automated policies are policies that have been automatically applied to this API and all APIs running in this current environment. They have priority over API level policies and read only at this scope. Right? By read this, you will understand what is the use of this automated policy. Yeah. So what it meant was, so whenever you have added any automated policies here, if you don't apply any API level policies, in that case also, all the APIs deployed in this particular environment, for all those APIs, these automated policies will get supplied. లెట్ మీ రిపీట్ ఇట్ తెలుగు వన్స్. సో ఇక్కడ మనకి ఆటోమేటెడ్ పాలసీస్ అని ఒకటి, ఏపీఐ లెవెల్ పాలసీస్ అని టూ ఉంటాయి మనకి ఏపీఐ పాలసీస్ అప్లై చేయడానికి. ఆటోమేటెడ్ పాలసీస్ మనకి లైసెన్స్డ్ వెర్షన్లో మాత్రమే ఎనేబుల్ ఉంటుంది, మన ట్రయల్ వెర్షన్లో ఎనేబుల్ ఉండదు. దట్ ఈస్ ఫస్ట్ థింగ్. బట్ ఆటోమేటెడ్ పాలసీస్ వల్ల యూజ్ ఏంటి అంటే, ఎప్పుడైనా మీరు ఆటోమేటెడ్ పాలసీస్లో ఒక పాలసీ యాడ్ చేస్తే మీరు మళ్ళీ ప్రతి ఏపీఐ క్రియేట్ చేసిన ప్రతిసారి మీరు ఏపీఐ పాలసీస్ అనేది యాడ్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉండదు. ఆటోమేటెడ్ పాలసీస్లో ఏవైతే మనం అప్లై చేస్తామో అవి ఈ డెవ్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్లో మీరు ఎన్ని పాలసీస్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తే అన్నిటికీ అప్లై అయిపోతాయి ఆటోమేటిక్గా. మీరు మళ్ళీ ఇక్కడ ఒక్కొక్క పాలసీ యాడ్ చేయాల్సిన అవసరం ఉండదు. మన సిస్టమ్ ఏపీఐలో ఏం చూసాం, వీ హ్యావ్ యాడెడ్ క్లయింట్ ఐడి ఎన్ఫోర్స్మెంట్ పాలసీ ఫర్ ఏపీఐ. సో వీ హ్యావ్ యాడెడ్ దిస్ by clicking on this add policy, and then we selected this client ID enforcement policy, then we added it. So that is specific to that system API. But now see, for eAPI there is no policies, because we have created API, we have added API level policies in the system API. If instead of that, if we have added any automated policies by that time, those automated policies also visible here for this eAPI, Experience API. Okay, so this may be your interview question, one of the interview question regarding the policies, or that may be one of the requirement in your real-time project. So if you want to apply common policies, you can just go ahead with automated policies. If you can add this client ID policy in the automated policy, whatever the APIs you have created, how many number of APIs, forget about, like for example, if you have created 10 or 20 APIs, for all those 20 APIs, this client ID enforcement policy will apply by default. You no need to add again here. Okay, remember this thing. See, apply a new policy to this API. If you can just hover this I information box, it will be easy for you to understand. Whenever you say here, see, apply a new policy to this API, it means it is applicable to only this API, this eAPI, not for all the APIs deployed in this dev environment. So we have already seen that client ID enforcement policy. Let me add the same thing again for this eAPI also. Yeah, but before adding that, let's see if it is deployed, and let's test without policy once, then it will be easy for you to see. These are all the list of policies available. Apart from this, you can add your custom policy also. Okay, you can create your own policy by using some code in Java or something. You can add it, but to be frank, there is no need of any custom policies in general. Okay, right. So yeah, let's see if it is deployed. Yeah, it gets deployed, the eAPI. Let's test this API once without any policies. So I need to frame this unit point http:// this one and /API/libraries. This is our endpoint, right? So as we didn't add any policies, I'm just clicking send. I'm not adding any headers and all. So internally what it should see, you got 200. Okay, but from where this response is coming from? From the process API, because we have only flow reference here. In this flow reference, here you have here you have invoked the process API. You get the response from the process API here in the Postman. But from where the process API will get this response? It will get the response, or it will get the data from the system API. So process API will get data from the system API. Process API will transform it, then send it to the experience API. Likewise for each and every request. So now what will happen? Now for the end users or for the client, we are going to give this URL. This URL means eAPI, Experience API URL. You are not going to provide process API URL or system API URL, because those are internal to your organization now. Earlier we have tested direct process API URL, direct system API URL. Now we have tested direct experience API URL. But this experience API URL only you are going to expose to the clients. You are going to give this URL to the client or any other target or source system who will consume our Mule API. You will not give process API URL, system API URL to them. That is first thing you need to remember in case of API-led connectivity. So we are going to expose our experience API only to the outside of the world. Right? So as we are going to give this experience API to the end users, what steps we need to make sure? So we need to make sure our experience API is more secure than system API and process API, because system API, process API will be there in our own organization. That will not be shared to the outside of the organization or outside to the world, to the clients. But experience API is the one we are going to share to the outsiders. So in that case, we need to make sure our experience API is more secure than process and system APIs. So that is why we need to apply much policies, more policies in the API, experience API, apart from the process and system API. సో ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఏపీఐ అనేది మనం క్లయింట్స్కి ఇస్తాం. ఈ యూఆర్ఎల్ మాత్రమే ఇస్తాం వాళ్ళకి టెస్ట్ చేసుకోవడానికి కానీ, కన్జ్యూమ్ చేసుకోవడానికి కానీ. మన ప్రాసెస్ ఏపీఐ, సిస్టమ్ ఏపీఐ ఇవ్వం. అది మన ఇంటర్నల్గా మన ఆర్గనైజేషన్లో మనం డిప్లాయ్ చేసుకొని ఉంటాం. ఈ యూఆర్ఎల్ మాత్రమే మనం షేర్ చేస్తాం. సో ఇది మనము బయట వాళ్ళకి షేర్ చేస్తున్నాము ఈ యూఆర్ఎల్ అన్నప్పుడు దానికి ఎంత సెక్యూరిటీ ఇచ్చి మనం షేర్ చేయాలి, అది మిస్యూజ్ కాకుండా ఉండాలి అంటే ప్రాసెస్ ఏపీఐ, సిస్టమ్ ఏపీఐకి అంత సెక్యూరిటీ అవసరం లేదు. ఇన్ ద సెన్స్ లైక్ జస్ట్ క్లయింటెడ్ ఎన్ఫోర్స్మెంట్ పాలసీ ఉంటే సరిపోతుంది. బట్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఏపీఐ అనేది యాక్చువల్గా అవుట్ సైడ్ యూజర్స్కి మనం ఇస్తున్నాం. సో వీ నీడ్ టు మేక్ షూర్ దిస్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఏపీఐ ఈస్ మోర్ సెక్యూర్. దీనికి ఎక్కువ సెక్యూరిటీ ఉండేటట్టు చూసుకోవాలి. సో మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద పాలసీస్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఏపీఐకే మనం అప్లై చేస్తాం ఇన్ జనరల్. ఓకే, సో లెట్స్ గో బ్యాక్ టు అవర్ ఏపీఐ మేనేజర్. లెట్స్ సి ఇన్ జనరల్ వీ అప్లై client ID policy, right? Let's do that later. Let's see this basic authentication policy. So what is basic authentication policy? To access your API, you need to send some username and password, just like your Gmail account, Facebook account, or any other social media account. To get that profile details and to log in into that, you need to enter your username and password, right? Just like that, to access this URL or to access this data, we need to send username and password like this here in the authorization header. In client ID secret, we have send in the headers section. But this basic authentication username password you need to send into this authorization header. So here you need to select basic auth, and see, once you select the basic auth, it will ask for you the username and password. So from where you get these values, that is what we are going to do now. Alright, so let me just go back. Yeah, let me just add policy. You need to add basic authentication simple. Basic authentication LDAP is the different one, don't use that. That is for LDAP server, which is not related to us. This is simple, so click on simple, click next. Here it will ask you username and password. By default it will show you your platform username and password, but you can give any username and password. You can change this. So for now I'll change, let me just you can change this, but it is not allowing me. Let me test@123 I have given as a password. Okay, let me just use this, but yeah, let's apply this, then maybe we can change it later. Now come back. And observe one thing, now your experience API is also active because we have implemented auto discovery and we have sent those 4 properties in the runtime properties. So that is one thing you need to observe whenever you work on this auto discovery thing. Okay, so basic authentication simple. Let's click edit, maybe edit configuration. Yeah, now you can able to change the username. Initially you will just apply with the whatever default values you have. Maybe now you can change the user here. So I can say clat EAPI user. It is case sensitive, so remember. And
In the password, yeah, it will show you this password. I will just give you test@123. Why I am showing this username and password here is, yeah, you need to add these values to access that experience API. So test@123 is my password. This is my username. I just copied it. Let's click save. So once you click save, what will happen? This policy, see, this policy was updated successfully and this policy is applied to your experience API. Let's try to hit the same endpoint without any information. Maybe by default it is no Atna. Let's test with that. Now it should not give you the response. See, unauthorized. This is the error you need to get whenever you have applied this basic authentication. You will get unauthorized error if you didn't pass that username and password. See, registered authentication is set to HTTP basic authentication, but there was no security context on the session. Authentication denied on connector HTTP listener. సో మీరు పాస్ చేసే వరకు యూజర్ నేమ్ పాస్వర్డ్ యాక్సెస్ ఇవ్వము ఈ ఏపీఐకి, మీకు డేటా రాదు, యూ విల్ నాట్ యాక్సెస్ ద డేటా. Simple. So this is the error you will get whenever you miss any username and password. Remember this error code and error response. We have already discussed a couple of error codes in our error handling section. Just correlate with this. So now let's pass the username and password and see. So now it is basic authentication and I just copied that username and the password test@123. Let's send. See, now you got the 200 OK is the success response and now you got the payload also, I mean response also. Right? This is how you can apply basic authentication policy. Let's see another policy. See, for example, we have a requirement like, see, now this time I am just hitting it first time, na? So second time, third time, fourth time. So in any number of time you can access this API. There is no time limitation or request limitation. So if your API requires లైక్ అంటే లోడ్ ఎక్కువ అయిపోతుంది, సో మీరు తక్కువ రిక్వెస్ట్లో మాత్రమే ఈ తక్కువ టైంలో మాత్రమే మీరు యాక్సెస్ చేయాలన్న రిక్వైర్మెంట్ మీకు ఉంటే, వాట్ ఐ మెంట్ వాస్ విత్ ఇన్ 5 minutes if you want to I mean if your requirement is within 5 minutes, that only it will handle only 5 requests or 4 requests. If that is your requirement, you need to apply one more policy, which is nothing but rate limiting policy. Go to policy section, add policy. Here search for rate limiting and SLA based you can just ignore, that is for licensed versions. Now you can just select the normal rate limiting policy. See, specifies the maximum value for the number of messages processed for the time period and it rejects the extra requests. The policy detail itself, it will be easy for you to understand. Just read the description. Okay, so yeah, sorry, something stuck out. Yeah, you can just select this rate limiting policy, click next, and here you can mention how many number of requests in which time period it should accept. So number of requests I can say 4, time period I can say 2 minutes, and what is the time unit? It's minutes, seconds or something. It's maybe, in my case I'll select minutes. It means in the 2 minutes of time it will accept only 4 requests. If you send 5th request in the 2 minutes of time, it will reject. It will send you another error code and another error response. Let's see that. So this is how you can configure your rate limiting policy based on your requirement. So if my requirement is like within 2 minutes of time, it should accept only 4 requests. If more requests are coming to this API, I want to reject that. I don't want to accept those messages and I don't want to process those messages. So that is my requirement now. So that is why number of requests I have configured 4, time period I have given 2, and time unit means minutes. So within 2 minutes it will accept only 4 requests. So let's apply. So it will take at least 1 to 2 minutes to sync the policy. Yeah, let's try to test this. So how to test this rate limiting policy means you need to send multiple requests and count the request. If it is exceeded 4, it should throw the error instead of response. So I am clicking now 1 time. I got the response 200 OK. Second time I got the status 200 OK and I got the response. Third time 200 OK and response. Fourth time 200 OK response, and this is the fifth time. So it already accepted 4 requests. So when I click on fifth time, when I send request to the fifth time, it should not accept based on our configuration. See, when I clicked on fifth time, it throw the error 429, too many requests. This is the error code 429. Too many requests is the error response, and you got the error body like quota has been exceeded. Like this, your rate limiting policy will work. So whenever if I add only 4 requests, when I send 4 requests, it is accepted. It sent 200 OKs, HTTP response and message, and it sent successful response. But now when the fifth time, 429 too many requests, and this will stop. It will reject the request. It will not process till when, till 2 minutes. Now it is 5:07 in my laptop. If I hit this API again at the 5:09 or 5:10, it will work, because we have configured within 2 minutes it should not accept 5 requests. It should accept only 4 requests. So after 2 minutes it will again take another 4 requests, and then if you send a fifth request, maybe next time also it will reject. So like that, if that is your requirement, you can use this rate limiting policy, right? So yeah, that is about rate limiting policy in the experience API. So try to build all the remaining 3 resources also, just like just like for the process API. In the experience API also, try to build all these another 3 requests. Okay, maybe let's come back to this topic again. We will just finish it off the remaining code, but before that, try all these things. Create all the 3 resources in the process API and experience API. Okay, then this will be an assignment for you to practice more better. Okay, maybe let's stop this video here. So there is nothing to commit. We can stop this video here. Let's meet in another video. We will discuss more details in that another video. Okay, thank you.